Heyo, motorcycle people! After the long winter, it's Tony back in the saddle on the SG250 for another Avoid Highways video. This is kind of a momentous ride today. I think this is going to be the last spin I take on the SG250 in its stock form because the weather is beginning to break. The garage is warming up, and the Moto Cult Stage 4 Plus Performance Kit is calling to me. Yeah, I think it's going to be install time. So we're going to take our farewell voyage, if you will, on the SG250 in its bone stock form. And while we're out, there's a question that's been tickling the back of my brain. Is this a good beginner bicycle? I did it again. You know what? I'm a mountain biker, and so every so often bicycles on the brain. But anyway, sorry about that. Is this a good beginner motorcycle? It'd be a terrible beginner bicycle, but is it a good beginner motorcycle? And I'm going to give you kind of 3 reasons yes, and maybe a couple why it's not a bad beginner motorcycle, but just things to be aware of. Because I don't think it's an unqualified yes. The SG is often portrayed, both in marketing and people's perceptions, as, you know, strictly a beginner motorcycle. I am a not beginner. I am a intermediately experienced motorcyclist, and you know, I think about this compared to what I did begin on, which was a Suzuki, I think it's called the S40 now. They used to call it the Savage, 650 single. It's a cruiser. That was a quirky little bike. It was a great place to start, but it had its quirks, and so does the SG250. So the first reason why I say yes, this is in fact a great beginner motorcycle, is that it is super light and easy to move around. And you've seen me on other videos. I don't know, it probably should be a drinking game at this point when I say it weighs 273 pounds. You got to take a shot, but it weighs 273 pounds. Drink. It's just so easy to move around, and to, you know, you don't ever feel like the weight is going to get away from you when you're sitting at a light, or you're you know, just sitting on it, getting your gloves on, when you're parking. Like, it's just easy to handle, and that is, I think, a huge benefit as a beginner motorcycle. It's just, you don't want something that you feel like you're going to drop all the time, that you feel like you're having to cling on for dear life to balance the weight when you're not used to doing that. And so that's, I think, a huge plus in the SG's favor. The second benefit for the beginner motorcyclist is it's not a lot of power, and I think that is important. Do you have to start out on a 250 or something like that? No. I started on a 650. It was fine. Now granted, it was a very sluggish 650. It wasn't going to get away from me, but you know, there is something to be said for starting out with manageable power, where, you know, if you make a mistake, if you get a little wild in the wrist, this is going to surge a little bit and not much more. It's not going to go flying out from underneath you. So, you know, I know that is a concern sometimes for beginner motorcyclists, and I think the power on this, you know, it's somewhere between 10 and 20 horsepower stock. I think they claim 16. You know, it's just not going to get away from you, and so in that sense, I think it's a really good beginner motorcycle. You can learn to, you know, manage the inputs and manage your clutch and do all of those, make your beginner mistakes with relatively little consequence. The third benefit as a beginner motorcycle, and I don't tend to emphasize this too much because I think the bike is a good bike on its own. So I don't like to overemphasize this, but the price is unquestionably also a benefit. MSRP on this is just, I don't know, $24.95, you know, just shy of $2,500. You will frequently find them on sale for $2,200, and towards the end of the year, when they're trying to move out that year's inventory, you might get a deal like I did and get it for $2,000. And you know, why is that important? Well, when you're a beginner, you don't actually know if you're gonna like this. You know, it looks cool and romantic and exciting, but it isn't for everybody. And if you drop, you know, $6 grand on a bike only to find out a few months in, I don't really dig motorcycling that much. I mean, first, you know, get some help, because, you know, I don't know why you wouldn't but love motorcycling, but it happens. And you don't want to be many thousands of dollars in. If you've spent, you know, $2,000, $2,500 plus, you know, a few fees and a little shipping, it's a lot less painful if you have to unload it at a loss. And so for that reason, I do think the price as an entry point into motorcycling is one of the benefits. You know, I think one of the other benefits is simplicity. And simplicity plays with this bike in several ways. One is simplicity of the riding experience. There are no fancy gauges and TFT screens and animations and ride modes. You know, none of that stuff that frankly can be distracting. I look at some of the switch gear on some of the very high-tech bikes and I'm like, darn, man, like, how do you operate that while paying attention to what you're doing? Even my Tiger, which, you know, has some tech but isn't kitted out like a lot of them, even that I feel fumbly with. I want to pull over if I'm trying to do some stuff. So I think simplicity of the riding experience is a big benefit for beginners. You need to be focused on the road. You need to be focused on the people around you, especially the people around you, and learning to ride the bike. And I think this motorcycle gives you a lot of benefits there because there's no distractions. It's just a pure, simple motorcycling experience. You got a clutch, you got 2 brakes, you got a throttle. That's it. I mean, you're just doing the thing in its simplest form. And I think there's a lot to be said for that for beginner riders. Simplicity also plays in the maintenance and upgrade realm. Now, as a beginner rider, you shouldn't immediately be thinking about upgrades, but you're gonna, because I did too. But maintenance on this, dead simple. Easy to, you know, oil changes, easy to do, easy to access. There's not even an oil filter. There's a screen that you just take out and clean. Super simple to do that. Super simple to adjust everything and make sure everything's looking good. You know, you've got a center stand, so maintaining your chain is easy. You can pop that center stand up and bingo bango, you're oiling and cleaning your chain. And then, yes, when it's time and you want to make some changes, he says hypocritically, looking at the kit sitting in his garage, then, you know, the bike is just so simple to take apart and put back together. It's really a benefit. So simplicity, I think, is another huge benefit for beginning riders, both in riding and living with it and maintaining it. And it also, again, helps with the economics of it, because you're really not spending much to do maintenance. Even if you have to take it to somebody, it's so simple, it's not going to be expensive. There are, though, I would say, a couple of caveats. Just fair warning of what it means to own a bike like this for a beginner. And the first is, it is carbureted, so you're not going to just start it up, hop on, and go. A fuel injected motorcycle, you start her up, maybe let it warm up for a minute, maybe. A lot of people don't even bother with that. And you're off. Easy peasy. Now, carbureted bikes are nothing to be afraid of, but they do require a little more patience. If the engine's cold, you got to warm it up. And usually, that's going to mean putting the choke on, starting it up, keeping your hand on the throttle, giving a little gas to get it warmed up. It can take a few minutes. It's not instant gratification that you would get from hopping on a fuel-injected bike. So it's just something to be aware of. Again, it's not a problem. It's not a, it's not a defect or anything like that. But you got to be prepared to go through a little bit of a startup procedure. All motorcycles used to operate this way, so it's not like it's a big deal. But it does take a little bit of patience. And if you are not a patient person, or you think you're likely to become frustrated trying to start up a carbureted bike, that's a consideration. I think another consideration is, do you feel that you have any kind of mechanical skills for maintenance, or do you want to develop them? And this is a plus and a minus. It's a very simple bike, and if you either already have, or you are brave and willing to try. You don't even have to be that brave. You just have to be willing to try to do your own maintenance. It can be really fun, really economical. Like I said, even if you have to take it into a shop for maintenance, it's simple. It's not going to be that expensive. But oh man, doing it yourself, at least for me, and I know this isn't universal, but at least for me, is a huge sense of satisfaction. I had a clutch part break on that Suzuki S40 when I had it as my first bike, and I didn't know jack squat about what was inside motorcycles or engines in general. But I did some research online. I mean, hey, you're on YouTube right now. You know what you can find on YouTube, which is basically everything. But I did some research, and I dove in. And it turned out, because that, like this, was a very simple bike, I was able to, I won't say easily, because I had to remove a few things, including the exhaust, but I found my problem. And of course, as you know, luck would have it, it was an $8.50 part that snapped deep in the recesses of the clutch. But I put down my $8.50 plus tax and put it all back together, and by God, it worked. And then I knew more. And then I bought a TT250 from CSC, which is the same engine, and I did some upgrading on it, again with Motor Cult parts, did my own maintenance on it, and I knew more. And so if you've got the space, if you've got the inclination, learning to work on something simple like this really opens up the world of, you know, maintenance and mechanics to you, and I do count that as a benefit, but it's not going to be for everybody. What else? What else? You gotta be patient with it. You gotta, you know, maybe be willing to get your hands a little oily. You know, some people will say, it's too small, you're gonna want to graduate to something else right away. I don't agree. Especially if you live in an urban environment or suburban, the way I do. You know, people need to quit measuring their pistons, if you know what I'm saying. This bike has plenty of power to get you around a city at any speed you would need to go, other than maybe freeway, which we've talked about before. You can do it very briefly. And, you know, in my suburban environment here, it's just great. So I wouldn't look at it as needing an upgrade. So in summary, is it a good beginner motorcycle? Yeah, it is. It's fun. I kind of missed that on the list. It's fun. Hey. And why else would you be starting this if not for fun? It's fun. It's economical. It's easy to work on and maintain yourself if you can. It's simple, no distractions. With the minor caveat of, you know, be patient because it's carbureted. Cold weather, it's not going to be happy. It's going to take you a while. And, you know, other than that, all you got to do is go out and have fun, like I'm doing today. It's 1st of March today. I've been cooped up all winter. It's been a very cold winter where I live, and dear God, it's been warm all week, and I've been chomping at the bit to get out here on this bike. So there we go. I hope that's helpful for anybody considering an SG250. I mean, there's other things I could say. It's easy reach to the ground. You know, it's a smallish, relative, you know, low seat height bike. So feeling in control by being able to put your feet down flat, even if you're not particularly tall, big bonus. I don't know. If I wanted to do another con, if I was deciding to reach for one, the clutch pull is a little stiff. A little. Not a big deal. You get used to it. Oof. That reservoir is dry. Yikes. But I do think, on balance, the SG250 makes a great first bike. Doesn't have to be your first bike. It's my fourth. Sixth if you count dirt bikes. It's just a hoot and super easy to live with. Hit me up in the comments. What do you think? Would you, as a SG250 rider, recommend it for a beginner? Any other questions that you as a beginner might have? I'm happy. I love questions. Love them. And I answer as quickly as I can. What else would you as a beginning rider want to know? Hit me up. I'll do my best. I'm no expert. I'm just a guy on a motorcycle asking you to comment and subscribe. And a big dork. Alright guys, thanks for taking the ride today. Say goodbye to the stock SG250. We're gonna super up here in the next couple of weeks and be back with some thoughts on the Motocult kit. Appreciate you all riding along with me. Stay safe out there.